everybody, it's Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for another edition of Bob's Smokin' Sunday. Today we're going to be doing pork loin on the Ugly Drum Smoker. Hopefully you watched last week and you saw a little bit of my seasoning on this drum smoker that I got. So we're going to be putting it to the test. We've got it. It's holding steady at about 240 degrees. So we're going to cook between 225 and 250 today for about 3 to 4 hours. We're going to temperature probe our pork, and when it gets to 145 degrees we're going to take it off, let it rest. We're going to slice it up. We're going to serve it with some macaroni and cheese today for dinner. So that's what we're doing. Let's take you inside and show you how we're going to get our pork loin seasoned and ready for the smoker. Okay, so today we're going to be doing a pork loin. Now that is different than a pork tenderloin, and I'll explain that to you later. But we got this at our local wholesale club. It's about 10 pounds, and what we're going to do is I'm going to cut it into thirds. That way I have 3 roasts to work with. I'm going to cook one of them today. They're going to be about 3 pounds each, and then we'll have more for another time. And then this one's going to kind of wind up right about here. And then we've got our third roast here. This roast does not have a whole lot of fat, so I'm not going to do anything to this one. This one has some here. You can see it's a pretty thin layer, so we'll trim some of the edge fat here. So I'm going to treat this kind of like I treat a pork shoulder. I am going to use some mustard as a slather, a binder to hold the seasoning onto the loin. So today I'm going to do 2 different types. I'm going to do one with Dijon mustard for a little spice, and one with just regular mustard. So we'll go ahead and do the Dijon mustard one first. We're just going to put a little bit on there, and then we're just going to rub that in. Make sure we get the edges. The back side. With just our normal barbecue rub that we use. And now we're going to do the one that we're just using regular yellow mustard as a binder. And we're just about ready to go and get these on the smoker. We've got our air intake hole cut down to about a half on this side and about a half on this side as well. I've got 2 Weber iGrill sensors here. One's going to be for the grill and one is going to be for the meat. Alright, so our smoker's been up to temp for a little while, and we are going to go ahead and get that meat put on this ugly drum. Now one thing you want to make sure of is you don't open the lid for too long, because air can rush in and it can get your temperatures up and it can be hard to get them back down. Alright, so we've got our pork loins on the smoker. They're probably going to take about 3 to 3.5 hours, and then we're just going to cook them to temp. So as soon as they get to that temp of 145, that's when we're going to pull them. We're going to let them rest. So we'll check in a little bit. So it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and I just wanted to spritz the outside of our loin with a mixture of water, equal parts water, apple juice, a little apple cider vinegar, and brown sugar, just to keep some moisture in the drum. And again, you want to do this fairly fast so your temperatures don't spike. So we got a notification on the Weber app that our probe in our smaller roast has reached the temperature of 145 degrees, which is our target. So we're going to pull that one off. We're going to take the probe and put it into the larger roast, which is probably going to take a little bit longer. But we're going to pull that smaller pork loin off. We're going to tint it and wrap it in foil, and then we are going to let it rest for a while the other one cooks. Then we're just going to tint this. Alright, so our smaller roast has rested for about 15 minutes. So I'm going to take it. We're going to set it right here. See in that foil all those juices. And we're just gonna slice it. It's nice and juicy. Nice smoke ring. Got a little more smoke on the one side than the other, but it tears apart. So what's the difference between the pork loin and the pork tenderloin? Well, the pork loin comes from the back of the pig, usually underneath the ribs, and it can come with those rib bones attached or boneless. And if you cut them, you can actually cut the loin into pork chops. When you're cooking a loin as a whole loin, you want to cook it low and slow by roasting it or smoking it. If you have a tenderloin, it's going to be much smaller. It's a muscle that runs along the spine of the pig, and it's a single muscle. And that particular cut of pork, you want to cook high heat and fast. So you want to sear it, you want to grill it. Alright, so we did pork loin on the Ugly Drum Smoker. It took us about 2 hours to do from start to finish. We cooked it at about 225 degrees. The charcoal held and the wood held perfectly in the Ugly Drum Smoker. I'll show you the graph here. I mean, you can see the only time it spiked or dipped was when I opened the lid, either to spritz it or to pull it off. So we seasoned it with mustard as our binder and our barbecue rub. We put it on the smoker. We let it sit there for about an hour and 15 minutes. Then we hit it with a spritz of apple juice, water, apple cider vinegar, and brown sugar mixture. Just kind of sprayed it to keep the moisture in the drum and on the meat. Once it got to an internal temperature of 145 degrees, we pulled it off. We tinted it in foil and we let it rest for about 15 minutes. Then we sliced it. We're going to serve this with macaroni and cheese. Taking a bite of it. It's cooked perfectly. It's juicy. It's moist. I mean, who couldn't ask for anything more? If you like what you see, click like, click subscribe, try it yourself. Once again, until next time, this is Bob saying so long from Bob's Smokin' Sunday.